welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today's co-host is Jared. Welcome back, Jared.
Hey, Daniel. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. We actually got a good dump of video game news this week, Microsoft news especially, so really happy you're here for that. But if this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Jared and I have been up to since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 518. So, Jared, this is one that you yourself added onto the show notes, which is great. Upgradable laptops that are now available from Framework. And these are laptops that are promising to be upgradable in basically 15 to 20 minutes. So what do you think about this story, and how excited are you as someone who uses PC and maybe even for PC gamers out there?
I think it's got a lot of potential. Right now, it doesn't look like they have a gaming PC on their website, like an actual true gaming PC. The Intel chip upgrade looks pretty simple. It all seems like a good idea. I think the main questions are going to be, one, how long are they going to actually do it? And then also, are they going to have other options? Like, are you going to be able to input like an AMD chip or things like that into it?
One of the things that they have on their website, you mentioned the Intel chips. So you can get started for as little as $449, which is relatively cheap in today's market. Or you can go all out at over $1,000 and go for like the more higher end Framework PCs. But the whole draw to this, it seems to be, is that you can swap out parts for something stronger. You don't have to dump your PC for a completely new one. I know a lot of, I don't know how prevalent it really is in the PC market, but for example, in the Apple space, and it is actually in Android phones too, they don't make it so that you can simply replace the battery or replace certain parts when it goes bad. And you and I grew up on smartphones where you can just buy a new battery and then you'll be golden for another couple of years. But these days, they seal these things up, or you got to send them into the manufacturer, and then you're paying almost as much as a new phone anyway. So this is pretty big and new for today's market, because again, a lot of these companies don't let you do these things.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Alienware that had an upgrade path for their laptops that never actually came to fruition and actually kind of hurt them for a bit. So it looks like this one's already available, which is good in at least some models. Like I said, I would like to see a gaming PC available from them. But I mean, it's a really cool idea, honestly. And the fact that they're pulling it off and it's already being manufactured is a big plus.
And this does reduce waste, of course, so that's a big plus for the environmentalists out there. Or if you're not sending yours in to get recycled or reused by another company, this is a huge opportunity. You had mentioned Alienware, and I saw that was included in some of these articles that were up for this. So they did promise, it sounds like what you were saying, a path to upgrading your existing Alienware PC. So why exactly did that not go through, and how much did that really anger some of the people that were going forward with their Alienware laptops?
It was definitely a big issue, because that was honestly one of the reasons some people bought into Alienware. I mean, they're always, as most of the gaming PCs are, like your brand names and stuff like that, they're going to be more expensive than just a standard laptop, for instance. This one, I cannot remember the exact issue, but I think they had issues with like what they were trying to do wasn't so much like a platform like this is, where you buy the chip and the motherboard that supports it like all in one package. It was actual individual pieces, if I remember properly, and it just never worked. So they didn't never actually even put it to market.
That's a real shame, because I know for this one, the way it was built, it's 4 modules, right? The way the Framework is making their laptops, and you can also do customizable inputs as well. So you can choose based on what your needs are as far as CD drives, or what do they call it? Like the C-type cables. You can basically choose what kind of inputs you want on this thing, which is an awesome thing, because with technology, everything requires a different type of connection, but you can make your laptop work for your setup. And if Framework is able to pull this off, this could be a long-term business plan for them, and something that you will have if you have early adopters and you care for them and you sustain this model, they will stick around for essentially almost infinite upgrades as long as you maintain that quality and you maintain that connection with this base of customers.
Yeah, like I said, it all depends on how long they're doing this program, how they're help building these out. I mean, there's also the possibility of a buyout, I would imagine. I mean, if it does take, I can see Framework getting, absorbed by MSI or Asus or somebody like that, which honestly I'd hate to see. I like to see more manufacturers out there.
Mhm.
But, like I said, with the way that they have everything set up, and also I have to imagine that the computers themselves are a lot easier to take apart if you do have an issue.
Exactly. And that's something that was mentioned in Framework's sort of update is you can pretty easily open them up. And the other thing is they're also not cheap. That's one of the problems that, or some of the worries that people had is usually when they're upgradable, at least in the past, they feel cheap. They don't feel as sturdy. And that's something that these articles were stating is that once you have them locked in and built, they're still essentially one piece. They don't feel like, okay, well, this thing can fall apart at any moment. And that's all based on early impressions, but that's all a positive and something that they seem to have been active in addressing with these particular PCs.
Like I said, it's a really cool idea to see. I like seeing computer manufacturers do something different.
Are you an early adopter for this, or are you kind of angling like maybe you're going to jump in on these?
Honestly, I'd like to see some more powerful modules first.
Okay.
For what I do with my computer, I need a little bit more power. But yeah, no, it's a really cool idea, and I wish them all the luck in the world with it.
Diving into some gaming itself, Bayonetta 3 fans are divided over this optional safe for work option in the upcoming game. According to the developer, Platinum Games, quote, "The witch is back and sexier than ever," end quote. But for those who prefer less sexy, there's going to be a mode called the Naive Angel mode, which does tone down the amount of partial nudity that's in the game. So right now, Bayonetta 3 is set to release this year on October 28th for the Nintendo Switch for $59.99. And at first I thought this was non-news, right? I'm like, okay, well, it's an option. Who cares? If I want to use the regular Bayonetta option, it's there. Or if you feel uncomfortable playing in front of family members or whatever, like Platinum Games was saying, you can choose the safe for work option. Or if I were a teen, that'd be a good way to convince a parent, right? Oh, well, you can make this safe for work. So it's not as, because that was the main thing when I worked at GameStop. That was the biggest worry when people were buying GTA. Well, it's got violence, it's got blood, you can steal things, you can hold up people, you can have entire shootouts with whomever. Yeah, no, that's fine. They watch that on TV. You can visit the strip club. Oh, wait, what? No, you can't have this game. Here in the US, that's a big no-no. So for something like Bayonetta 3, but then Millennial Mike, well, before we get into his, what is your take on this optional safe for work mode for Bayonetta 3?
Honestly, all right. So speaking as somebody I've honestly never played a Bayonetta game. So, I mean, take it for a grain of salt, but I don't really see the problem as long as the original game is, as intended. And honestly, I see if it's popular enough, I can see other games doing this and maybe getting some, more not safe for work options available. I am curious, though, how the menu system is going to be set up for this, because it's one of those things where, like, you're talking with teenagers, like, all right, well, they can play it in safe mode and it's all fine, but like, is there an option for parental locks, like some kind of pin code or something like that, where like, hey, to get these settings, if I hand my son my Switch and he's 6, can I let him play this in the safer work mode and he can't, undo it in the middle of playing it or something like that? Or, how does that work exactly is kind of what I would want to know.
That's a good question. Now, the game will be rated M from what I can tell, so I wouldn't be shocked if they did not include like a parental option, because I guess you can justify it as, well, it's already an M-rated game, so why put in parental controls? So I can see that being, but you brought up a really good point of the complete opposite effect of, if this is popular enough, will other future games then maybe be a little bit more bold in their artistic visions or whatever you want to call it, because they always have that option of, well, if you don't want to go all out, you can always have this. So I didn't even think about that. I know there's the worry of other games will now have this toned down theme to them in the future, but it works both ways. If they feel like they can go all out and be safe for it, like, hey, if you don't want to play that, you can go, especially in today's culture, hey, you don't have to make them sexy or anything. You can choose this option too. Then that would allow for possibly more chances for these developers to go as intended.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, think about, Dead or Alive, a beach volleyball or something
Yeah.
like that with a, more not safer, or I don't know, like a European mode, if you will.
And Millennial Mike, so this is a quote from Discord. He brought up this point, quote, "Things like these are only an issue in aggregate, and they are an issue for one main reason. Games can't be what they are unashamedly. In principle, art should not be tempered. It just sets a bad precedent that is always better to be more accessible than it is to be more authentic. This isn't a good message. Most people who are okay with it or don't have an opinion usually think that options are always a benefit. That is not true. That isn't how the people work. I've never played this game franchise, but I have seen this thing happen to a lot of franchises, and on principle, I do not like it." End quote. So I was initially in that crowd of, hey, options are always good. Why not? And I usually default to that. But he's saying that in the future, this could overall be a problem in the gaming industry if it ends up taking hold and suddenly you have a, I guess, safer work GTA, or I'm not too sure. What do you think the bad part of this could be?
I mean, honestly, like I said, as long as they're giving you the dual option, I don't really see an issue with toning things down in certain games. I suppose it could be an issue with, I don't know, like, I guess like Sonic, for instance, like, who really wants to see NSFW Sonic, but, who doesn't?
Scott
There's
does,
a lot of people online.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially Sonic.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's one of those things where, like, I understand where he's coming from with, like, splitting developers and maybe adding some more time to add, like, the not safe for work filters or, whatever the case may be for that part of it. But, I mean, overall, I think it's a cool thing to try out. Why not?
If this were on a bigger game like GTA, Call of Duty, something like that, where it will definitely have an impact on the industry, then I would side a little bit more with what Millennial Mike is saying. But Bayonetta is not a huge franchise. They've already said this is the final one in the game. 2 almost didn't happen if it weren't for Nintendo. So now with 3 is a miracle that it's even around.
Yeah.
But I totally get his worry of, if this becomes, let's say a studio says, like Activision or EA or someone says, we want a safe version in this game, make sure you implement that in this game. And now they're forcing developers, like you mentioned, maybe splitting developers at that point. Huge problem, absolutely. But we're not there yet. And we're not, I don't think we're at a stage where we should worry about that. And again, because of the fact that it's just Bayonetta 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where honestly anything can be used for either good or evil. Hopefully this stays on the good side.
Speaking of a good side and a good thing coming to Xbox, in the latest Microsoft Xbox update, Discord voice chat has been added to help users talk to their friends among Microsoft Xbox consoles. So this update follows the start of Discord integration on the Xbox from 2018, which made it so that users could connect their Discord and Xbox accounts in order to see what their friends were playing across platforms. You can see that now if you use Discord. So Bobby, I think, or Millennial Mike mentioned that this is ahead of Sony's, and Sony, interestingly enough, bought up Discord, but you're getting the Discord voice chat on the Xbox consoles before anything else, it seems like.
Yeah, it does look that way. I mean, I think it's cool because I love Xbox, but I mean, I'm sure Sony is going to be working on this kind of thing in the future. It's good. I've liked Discord for a long time, and we both use it. We have the show, and now we can all play together on our Xboxes.
So I'm not too active on online game chat, but does this mean that theoretically, while let's say Bobby's playing something on his Xbox, that everyone on Discord can theoretically jump in on that same chat? Is that how this is working, or what's the actual support for this for Discord and Xbox?
That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you're basically just going to have access to your Discord voice channels that you would have on your PC. Which honestly is the way I'd prefer it. But even if it's not, if it's something different, like we'll have to find out how it's implemented exactly, which I honestly haven't had a chance to do yet. But I mean, why not? Discord is like one of the most popular apps on PC. why not bring it to, Xbox?
Especially on Game Pass or PC Game Pass, where you're pretty much already playing on the PC that you're using Discord on anyway. So,
Right.
for example, PC Game Pass, it's just perfect. And in a direction that Microsoft is moving on, where we discussed this a couple weeks ago, I think with Bobby, of consoles are not going to, it seems like they're not going to be the default in the future, where you can just have PC Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass and access it on your TV alone, or on your PC alone, or on your phone, just from an app. And you can access games like Halo and Doom and all this other great stuff without needing that console. So if that ends up being the future, you want to start getting things like Discord already integrated into your platforms. And I think it is a smart move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great idea. I'm trying to think of a bad thing to say about it, but honestly, I'm really happy with this news.
Absolutely. And this is another news story that you added on to this week's news, and it is big, with Rockstar, as they have added more than 220 job postings, and this is all up within the last month. So this covers a wide range of stuff like associate production coordinator, senior production manager, social in New York, game tester, all kinds of positions, and people are speculating it's for GTA 6.
I mean, honestly, at this point, doesn't it kind of have to be?
It's gotta be, man. It's gotta be.
It's been so long. We're on the third console generation of GTA 5. It's getting insane. But I mean, like I said, I'm ready for 6 to come out. GTA 5 Online it's got great points. If you've been playing it, it's awesome. It has the RP thing on PC. I can't do it. You know what I mean? It's not my game. But I mean, I do love the story, and I'm ready for another single player.
This also, if it ends up being for GTA 6, tells me how early in development they really are with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still going to be a while, even if this is the good news.
Yeah, even if they're using the same assets or the same engine or whatever from GTA 5, just the fact that 220 new job postings, it's like, all right, I'm guessing, 4 years out, maybe 3? Towards the, I would normally say towards the end of the current generation, but it seems like this generation is going to go longer than your usual ones that we've seen in the past. So probably in the middle of these consoles' current life cycle is when we're going to start seeing GTA 6, I would assume.
Yeah, and honestly, by then we might have all new systems, like same generation, but like, the Xbox One S, that kind of thing. So I mean, it's going to be interesting, but like I said, more games are more games.
Well, they can follow the trend of, I think it was GTA 5, of, okay, well, dual console release. It's going to come out on the Xbox Series and also the next one. Dual, if you want to get a free upgrade type of thing. And then you release a definitive version with all of the... We're going to get GTA 6 at least 3 or 4 more times anyway, so let's just get ready for it.
I mean, honestly, you might as well. They've released GTA 5 on 3 different consoles, PC. I believe there's a Mac version, honestly.
Amazing.
It's like Skyrim. It's everywhere.
People keep buying it. Why not?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it goes on sale so infrequently, and people still pay full price for it.
I remember at GameStop, it's always one of the games that never went down in price. It was always around that $34.99 mark, and sure enough, teens came in with their parents wanting to buy it and sold the hell out of it. Rarely traded in, too.
Yeah, it's statistically, it was like one of the least traded in games, I think.
And we also have some WB news, as Warner Brothers Games and Player First Games announced last week that the Multiverses full open beta will officially get underway on July 26th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So this open beta will be available on the Xbox and other consoles as well as PC, with full crossplay and cross progression support. So if you're playing on your Xbox and you have friends that play exclusively on PC or other things, then you can also play with them and fight with them, earn points with them. And Multiverses, in case you have not heard of this, it is going to be a free-to-play title that includes a bunch of Warner Brothers properties like Batman, Harry Potter, Scooby-Doo, The Iron Giant, all fighting and teaming up with each other.
Yeah, no, it looks interesting. I don't know that it's really for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a Smash Brothers guy, but I mean, it's got a really cool cast of characters, and I mean, it seems good. I watched a little bit of it on Twitch earlier. The price point of, if you want to buy in, being like $40, but you can get it through a free Twitch drop, was kind of weird. But, just go to Twitch, watch it for an hour.
Bobby was saying that when it actually fully releases, it'll just be free. The problem here is, like what you said, how they handled it. People were fooled into thinking it was $40. Like Scott was fooled into, well, I thought it was free to play, and now it's $40. How many people do you think bought it thinking, oh shit, I didn't know it was free to play, and then when it drops, that they're kind of stuck with it? Or were they promised skins? Or I don't know. Like, it's a messy launch for them. Just one misstep, but I think hopefully when they launch it, they can just advertise the shit out of free to play, get them in, get them hooked, and people, if they like it enough, they'll start spending money to get the extra characters and the extra skins.
Like I said, it got messy there, but like I said, it's just one of those things where, I think they were doing it to try, like, hey, if you really don't want to watch people on Twitch, then, go ahead and give us the $40 and you can have early access. But I don't know. I think it'll be all right. It'll do probably about as well as it was before.
And I'm with you on the game. I love Smash Brothers. I will try this out because it is free to play, but had it been $60, $40 even, the quality does not look like it's a 60, like on Smash Brothers level. It looks better than that Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon shit that they did, whatever that was.
God.
Yeah, like they didn't even have voice acting or some shit. Like Jock bought it twice. Mm-hmm. But it does look a step higher than that.
Jock.
Boy.
Yeah, I feel like it's somewhere between, actually, where it might be is kind of on that level of, what was the PlayStation one, like Battlegrounds or Battle Royale kind of thing.
I don't remember what that thing was called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's never a bad idea to have more options in a genre, and this is exactly what it is. If it takes off, it takes off, but they're pricing it free, so it might.
I will play it, and I'm sure some of us will as well, and we'll talk about it here on the show, our full impressions once it fully releases. So this story took fire on Twitter, Facebook. They're still writing stories about it on comicbook.com and Bleeding Cool because it does get the clicks. According to a report from Rolling Stone that was released on the same day as the US digital release of the Snyder Cut this week, 13% of, this is all according to them and data that they supposedly gathered, 13% of the Snyder Cut movement is fueled by bots. In this very same report, they go on to talk about some things that Zack Snyder, they think that he did. But first, let's talk about bots. Apparently, you and I, one of us may be a bot, and we don't know it. I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, there's that whole dead internet theory, which is basically like, I think, was it like 2010 or something like that? The internet basically like died, and most of the interactions you have with people online are completely bots.
Are we in the Matrix?
Kinda, but I mean, honestly, when you think about it, certain people kind of act like bots, so it may not be that inaccurate. I don't know that 13% of the Snyder Cut movement was fueled by bots. I mean, I know on Twitter there are a ton of bots. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at any political podcast or any political tweet rather. And it's just, you get like the first 20 replies are pretty much just garbage. Interesting. I'm sure some of the Snyder Cut movement was, helped by bots. They, saw a popular thing and saw it was trending and kind of went for it. But, it is what it is.
Or some of the more tech savvy people in the movement maybe have a way to channel multiple accounts and we're able to help it trend. I can totally see that happening, as it does with any major movement on Twitter or online. There's ways to manipulate things and get things trending. You do need more than just that to make it a thing. I think if you only had bots, the Snyder Cut would not have released. But as someone on, I forgot, Forbes or somewhere else, they put it, they're like, okay, let's assume that that's true and 13% of them are bots. That's still 87% of a fucking huge movement that donated a ton of money for suicide prevention. And then also all of the, like you were mentioning on Discord, the sales, the hits, the international market, like all of that can't be explained away by bots. That's all still money that's being thrown out there to vote for more.
Yeah, and honestly, it's the one thing that cannot be controlled by bots is, they don't have money very often. They're not people.
And in this very same report, it was claimed that Zack Snyder, he supposedly told all of us to review bomb Godzilla vs. Kong. And Warner Brothers supposedly approached him and said, you got to tell your fans to stop doing this. And he said, according to the report, he refused to do this. And Snyder has since, in that same article, claimed that he was never asked by Warner Brothers to do anything. He was never contacted. And he added, quote, furthermore, I do not control my fans. They have their own will and their own opinions. You really give me too much credit, end quote. Warner Brothers was able to work with IMDb to get false reviews weeded out. Do you remember these reviews that the movement was accused of?
Honestly, I don't. I don't really pay attention to reviews, though. I'm kind of like the worst person to ask about that. But
it wasn't a big deal because the people in the move, all these reviews were copy and paste on IMDb, and it wasn't that many, honestly. And in those reviews, they talked about Godzilla vs. Kong being, I don't know what it said, like something about being terrible and long live Zack Snyder, but they misspelled Zack Snyder. Like they spelled it Zach. So we're God. Who are these people?
Yeah, no, see, that sounds like bots. Exactly
right. And I do think Zack Snyder has a lot of influence. I think if he asked the movement to do something, we would absolutely do it. Like he says, buy it digitally, and we did, and it's #1 on the charts on Apple, and I think on Amazon it was on #3 last time I checked. So we're doing our part. And I would think, that's one thing, like him saying, I think it's a humble thing of saying, oh, you give me too much credit, but I do think that he has that influence. However, I don't think that he was, because I haven't heard it, of him telling review bomb this and make sure you boycott that. When Wonder Woman 84 came out, he was like, I saw it and I cried when at the end. So there's some things like that it's like, okay, I don't necessarily believe that any of this is true. And it's just kind of interesting. And there's more to dig into here. But first, again, the report did not address the success of the physical sales of the film worldwide, the record-breaking stream numbers internationally, or currently with the digital sales. It turns out that the writer of this particular piece from Rolling Stone, she is a defender of Joss Whedon. We dug through her tweets, and back when Justice League was happening, she was talking about it, what a great idea it was to bring on Joss Whedon to fix the Snyder cut, and a friend of that side, let's just say. So it's not a big surprise that she's now writing hit pieces for against the Snyder cut.
I mean, honestly, let's face it, Rolling Stone's been a rag for a while, so.
I do like all the quote tweets that are like, Rolling Stones, and I'm like, what did the band do?
Those are always good. Yeah, no, I love when people like miss hashtag.
Ray Fisher also took to Twitter to completely call out this journalism and how, the wording in there of him refusing to comment on the article, and he's like, here's the emails you guys sent me, and someone else on that side in Rolling Stone saying, here's the email we sent you, and he's like, why'd you crop out this sentence here? So there's a lot of like bullshit going on, and Ray Fisher completely called it out.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question I have for you. Last time all these hit pieces came out was right before they announced the Snyder Cut coming out, and it was like a very targeted thing. If we're not going to get any more Justice League 2 or 3, why is the anti-Snyder movement that is Jeff Johns and John Berg, why are they so worried and manufacturing so many of these hit pieces, especially this year and right before the digital release of the Snyder Cut?
That's a great question.
You think it's a sign that something's happening like last time?
It could be, although honestly, I'm not getting my hopes up.
I understand that.
I mean, it doesn't make sense too. But I mean, like I said, it'd be really cool if they did, announce that they were going to redo it. I don't honestly know. Like, the further along you get, the worse the chances of getting the same cast back are, is kind of my only real concern at this point.
Especially with Ezra, right?
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah. But I will say, I mean, as far as like the email and stuff like that with Ray Fisher, like they use these tactics like, they couldn't be reached for comment, or they refused to comment. And it's like they send an email at like 2 a.m. and give you like an hour before they publish. It's insane what they do with this kind of stuff. So like, I'm not surprised if they chopped his emails or anything like that.
The big rumor right now, by the time this episode releases, but I know some people are getting their hopes up and thinking that at San Diego Comic-Con, they will announce something, whether it's just the IMAX release, theatrical run of the Snyder Cut, or Justice League 2 and 3. We'll find out by next week. And I'm with you. I'm not getting my hopes up. I think it will be more or less probably like an IMAX limited release is what we're going to find out. But I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong, and we will cover it next week. The Endgame directors, the Russo brothers, in a recent video for Wired, gave praise to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
What if the Russo brothers directed Justice League? I think people conflate DC and Marvel.
What if? Oh, it's a play off the Marvel series What If.
Is it?
I don't know how to answer that.
See the Snyder Cut. That's the definitive cut. You don't need to see anything else.
I wasn't shocked that they praised it, and I have my reasons, but what was your reaction to this, if any?
Honestly, really none. I don't really care what the guys who did Endgame have to say about anything. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that they, enjoy the Snyder Cut. It's a good movie. Like, I mean, I would definitely recommend watching it. I do agree that it's the definitive edition. It's the closest to the original that we're going to get, unfortunately.
I did like the context of it, because the question to them was, would you direct a Justice League, or what would you do with a Justice League film? And they were basically like, no, that movie already, the perfect cut already exists, or the perfect Justice League movie is already there, so we couldn't do better. Or I don't know. That's kind of how I saw, like, a polite way of saying all of that, like praising it. But me, who definitely believes in the tinfoil hat theory, because we've seen Zach's original plans for the 5 films, I'm like, you guys kind of had to say a good thing about it, because without those 5 film plans that got leaked by Jeff Johns to Kevin Feige, you guys wouldn't have Endgame. Endgame is literally the plot of Justice League 3.
That was my other thought, honestly. Like, because I remember when that got leaked out, or actually, I mean, when Zach, talked about it, I think it was a movie event, right?
I think it was during the Snyder Con that he did. Yeah,
it was way too similar. And then people started looking at, like, well, hey, if he had this plan back then and they made this movie at this point, it is weird. But like I said, who knows if we'll even get the movie? And if we do, then awesome. And I hope it's way better than Endgame was.
We have a quote here from @TheExilesNet on Twitter, who said, quote, "Then a few days later, slamming altruism and the sanctity of the theatrical experience. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they believe, and I don't think I will ever. All we see is that they are essentially just a product and a tool. Take what you want and leave the rest," end quote. That is another thing. More recently, they had this quote of, they were asked once again, what do you think about these auteur directors like Scorsese calling the MCU juvenile? And obviously the answer is it is. Like, it's to sell toys and t-shirts and whatever, just like Star Wars and everything else. So
exactly.
But instead they were like, oh, they used, like, they dropped the F-bomb. Like, they were pissed off about it. So the Exiles Net is also right, because they seem they're picking and choosing the parts that they want and not really sticking to a vision or a belief when it comes to cinema.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's all platitudes for most people, so it just is what it is. We'll keep watching what we like to watch.
This is actual cinema. This is better than Endgame, I'm assuming. I've seen Top Gun, and it is awesome. Having achieved the $1.2 billion feat, Top Gun Maverick is now the highest grossing worldwide release from Paramount Pictures of all time. So Top Gun Maverick has surpassed Transformers Age of Extinction, which had $1.1 billion, and Transformers Dark Side of the Moon, or Dark of the Moon, which had $1.123 billion, and it is now the top spot. So, of course, this does not adjust for inflation. If you adjust for inflation, I'm assuming Transformers still has it, but let's see how Top Gun keeps performing over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, there are some talk of future movies. Star Miles Teller has already confirmed on Entertainment Tonight that there have been talks about a sequel, saying, quote, "That would be great, but that's all up to Tom Cruise. That's all up to Tom. I've been having some conversations with him about it, but we'll see," end quote. Did you get a chance to see Top Gun Maverick, Jared?
No, I haven't yet. Honestly, it's probably going to be a when it comes out on streaming thing for me. Honestly, though, like, it's really cool, and it also just, I feel like, says a lot about how starved for movies people are.
Yes.
Like, people really, really want to go see just regular movies.
That's the key word right there, regular. I have been mulling over this for weeks since I've seen it. For a while, I was confused. I'm like, why Top Gun Maverick? Why is this the movie that has been incredibly taken by the general audience? When I went to go see it, it was an older audience. There were very few teens and kids and all of that. My coworkers, who are in their 20s for the most part, most of them hadn't seen it. Like, they had no desire really to see it.
Yeah.
And after seeing it, and I'm going to keep this spoiler free, not that it's like a huge spoiler movie anyway, but the elements of the film, the plot is very much what movies that I think that you and I grew up with. It encompasses all of that, and not in a way of like Stranger Things where, oh, look at this 80s synth and music and all of that. No, it seems like they wrote this plot as in, let's not worry about the check marks. Let's not worry about, well, we need to at least include one positive family thing, and we need to include different, like any of that stuff. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying these are the facts. It seems like a movie that was not written with a formula in mind of you need to hit these points to make sure that the general audience is okay and doesn't cancel this movie. It was like here's Top Gun 2. It's like Top Gun 1. Here you go. And that seems to be the thing that the general audience has responded to, at least the older ones, the ones that are spending money to hit this thing at over $1 billion. And that not just in the US, but in other countries too. It just feels like an old school movie in a good way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, from what I understand it, there's no, what's the word, agenda behind it other than politics, just make a cool movie.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it feels like. And that might be what people are starved for. I mean, how often do we see these kinds of movies, honestly?
Not often. When was the last time you saw one?
Without that kind of message, it's tough to think of, and Maverick seems to be it. And for some reason, that ended up being the magical formula. Like, if you had told me, like, let's put out this movie and it's not going to have an agenda, I'll be like, well, let's see if it works. Good luck. I wouldn't have a lot of faith in it. And I think even Paramount has been, like, super surprised about it. I don't think they expected this to ever hit a fucking billion.
No, I don't think they did either. I don't think Tom Cruise expected it to hit $1 billion. I mean, it's insane. But, like I said, it is what it is. It's, it's the movie that he wanted to make, which is great.
I'm excited for you to see it. I want to see what you think about it after you watch it, just knowing that there's no agenda. Here's the movie. Here are the plot points. Very simple. Let's go. And all the fucking amazing action and special effects. Obviously, there's so much in it that's good and that people liked about it. But just plot-wise, I want to talk about that in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, as soon as it comes out on streaming, I'm probably going to watch it that day. But, like I said, it's just, with a 6-year-old and work and all that, it's tough to get to a theater.
It really is. Yeah. Like, I think Kelly and Leo were out of town when I went to go see this. Like, I had an afternoon. I was like, let me go see this.
That makes sense.
The last news story we have this week comes from Netflix, as they will team up with software giant Microsoft. I love Microsoft. This is a good idea to develop an ad-supported subscription plan, which Netflix is going to offer in the wake of the recent price hikes. So analysts believe that this isn't all there is to it, that Netflix could be trying to cozy up to Microsoft for a future acquisition. What do you think about this news? Good thing, bad thing?
Do I like the idea of Netflix with commercials? No, but I've had it for years without commercials. It's not a bad thing. If they are cozying up to them for an acquisition, then all right, cool. It's going to happen after the Blizzard one. It's just, we'll have to find out how it goes and where it goes from, after this. But it's neat, I guess. I mean, if you want to pay less and you're okay with commercials, it's there for you. And if you don't, then, you don't.
Most streaming service I've noticed have started adding that tier. HBO Max did it late last year.
Yeah.
You can have that cheaper option and you can have ads. And I'm on the same boat as, go ahead.
Honestly, even if you have the more expensive option, you still get like ads for other stuff on HBO Max before your thing plays.
Yes, you do get like a trailer for the latest thing and you can skip it. But yeah, you're right. It is technically still an ad.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's not at the rate of like fucking Hulu or...
Oh, God.
Anytime
I can only imagine.
Fucking Hell's Kitchen or anything like that, I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. Fucking
yep.
ads.
Every time the first commercial hits, and you're like, I live for the days when Hulu's like, hey, do you want to watch an ad every 5 minutes or do you want to watch 1 3-minute ad at the beginning? I'm like, give me the 3-minute ad.
Yes, I love that.
Just hand it over. If that was an option where just before I started watching something, it played a 3-minute ad, so you have it, you have a certain amount of time to go get a snack, to grab a drink, whatever. I think that would be a good option. I would even pay a little extra for it.
Oh, that's a good idea right there. Yeah, there's an idea. But with Netflix, I honestly don't know if this will be enough to get their subscription numbers back up. I know a lot of that was said because of the password sharing bad news that they had up there. the UK Russian, because they banned it over there, like obviously that cost them a shit ton of subscriptions.
Yeah.
I think that honestly was the biggest problem.
What was it? I think they lost like almost 1 million subscriptions. It was like 900,000 something.
It was a lot. I think it might have been higher than that.
It was a ton of them. And I mean, it is still better than the 2 million they were expecting to lose. So, I mean, that's good news. But I mean, I don't think it's over.
No, absolutely not.
With the amount of streaming services you have now, it's completely unremarkable for somebody to have Netflix, like, when a new show comes out. And then once they're done watching the show, to cancel that, get it within the month and then drop the service until something else you want to watch comes out. There's just way too many streaming services now. And that's definitely an option.
We've seen it with Millennial Mike too, when Halo came out, and Maceo too. He mentioned that he's like, when Halo comes out, I'm going to get when the full season is out, I'll get my subscription to Paramount Plus. I'll binge it and then cancel after that. And it is a very common model, and it is happening to all the streaming services. I'm sure every single one of them sees ups and downs. You just kind of hope that someone likes it enough to go, okay, I'll just let it roll and I'll keep enjoying some stuff on this list. They have enough in here that I can pick at for the next couple of months.
Well, it's like either that or they just forget about it. And that's how most of these subscriptions make money. Like, I had my Paramount for, probably an extra month because I forgot to cancel it.
That's right. That happened to me with fucking Funimation a couple years ago. I was like, oh shit, I didn't do it before the fucking day.
Exactly. And then you're like, well, I've got it for another month. Like, and then eventually you just forget it exists entirely.
Yep. That's it. They don't send you an email. At least they don't for HBO Max when they're charging me. They sent me one because I do the yearly plan, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, they don't send you emails every month or anything like that. It's all on purpose. Subscription models have been well planned out this way for a long time.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we go into the Brokehead block is, do you think it would be a good decision? Let's say the Activision Blizzard thing is done and they have extra money to play with. Is buying Netflix a smart move for Microsoft?
It's an interesting idea. I don't know that I would say it's a smart move.
It would depend on how cheap they were, right? At that point?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's what it really comes down to, is how much are they going to have to pay for a company like Netflix? Like, are they paying like the stock price, or are they paying over that? Like with, Elon Musk and his whole Twitter thing, or there's way too many variables to say whether it's a good buy or not. I'd say if they can get it for a good price, it can't hurt.
Like, what would they do with it is my question at that point. Like, it's kind of fun to speculate of, would they make it exclusive to, let's say, you could have Xbox exclusives or Game Pass exclusive shows or movies if you wanted, teamed up with Netflix, or would they just kind of let it ride like, I guess, Warner Brothers Discovery did with HBO Max at some point, and just kind of like, all right, we're just going to collect the money in the subscriptions. Although I don't think that would happen. I think it feels like Microsoft is a more hands-on company, especially with how they're handling the recent gaming acquisitions of, these are exclusive to PC and Xbox, at least for the next 5 years or so. I feel like they would do something active with Netflix and not just collect the money.
Well, also, it depends on whether Xbox is buying them or Microsoft is buying them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they are technically two different sides of the same company. Like, Xbox seems very into buying game companies at the moment, but it all kind of depends on who's buying it, what the price is. That, I think, is going to be a big determiner on like what gets bundled in. But I can see them throwing a Netflix subscription, raising the price of, Game Pass by like, hey, if you want the super ultra Game Pass, you get like, it's $2 more a month and you get Netflix included, which honestly would save me money.
That's true. Yeah. And that would get more people onto things like Game Pass or PC Game Pass, which I think should be their end goal right now, is to get as many people onto Game Pass as possible.
Yeah, no, 100%, because that's going to be what they get recurring revenue from, and that's the best you can do. Like, there's nothing better than recurring revenue every month. You have a set amount that you can guarantee that you're going to be making each month. Like, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. Not having to worry about, okay, we need to sell this amount of product or this many. It's a big deal to try to get that. And a lot of companies exist purely because of that. And that's definitely a good model right now. I don't know what it'll be in 10 or 5 or 20 years, but for now, that seems to be the way to really make a good chunk of money from people that can't even fucking visit your company just from their home.
Exactly. It's easy. It's simple for both sides.
That does wrap up the bulk of news this week. Now we head on over to the Brokept block, which is what Jared and I have been doing since you last heard us. So Jared, I know you and I are both parents, and gaming, playing, reading, all that stuff it's at a premium. Our time is very limited.
Sure.
But what have you been up to since you were last on?
Let's see. As far as watching, honestly, I've been going back through NCIS of all things.
And what's that on?
Netflix.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's just, the one of those old cop shows. I mean, old. It's still on, I think. But yeah, no, I'm like all the way on season 13, and it's,
holy shit.
Just kind of going through that. Yeah, no, season 13 of like, I think 17 that are out. Just kind of doing that, going to work, doing my thing.
NCIS, is that like other long-running shows like Star Trek or Next Generation specifically, or even like something like House, where have you spotted celebrity appearances that you're like, oh, they're huge now? And have they been popping up on NCIS, or is it mainly TV talent?
A couple of them, like, for instance, the tall, dark-haired guy from, what's the show with the meth guy? Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in NCIS for a few seasons as an agent, and, he actually just died not too long ago. But, just stuff like that, little side characters. I would say that they tend to use more established actors and actresses, but I mean, it's a cool show.
NCIS. That's definitely one of those shows that I always pictured like my parents watching or something like that, but they grew up on, or they watched other things when we were kids or teenagers. Like, geez, what was my mom watching? That George Clooney hospital show. What was that called? Fuck.
Could have been ER.
Yes, they were watching. My mom watched a lot of ER, so that was like her show. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Like it just seems like that kind of show that's like long running.
Yeah, I mean it's the same kind of deal. It's just definitely newer than either of those two. I think those were like easily like the 90s. But yeah, I mean it's the same kind of thing.
Now your kid can be like, yeah, NCIS, my dad watched that, and that's going to be the new Dr. Quinn. It's kind of weird.
Sadly enough, I started watching it like when it was on the air with my mom. Like it's a multi-generational show at this point.
I want to ask you too, because I love pointing out Star Wars stuff to you, because I'm like, yeah, what's going to be is it going to be good or bad, or or look what they're doing now.
Right.
I was watching a cringe compilation for E3 and the Game Awards earlier today, and they showed Jedi Fallen Order, like the first time they showed it and all that, and they have the game developers hyping it up like, you can do this, and then it cross cuts to terrible footage, that kind of shit. Was Jedi Fallen Order any good? Like, I gotta ask you, I gotta know.
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun game, but I mean, it wasn't for everybody. It was less of like the action adventure style of game and more like a Dark Souls light.
Gotcha. And
if that makes sense.
You could not choose light or dark side, right?
No, it was just one storyline that you went through, and it was fun. You have to run around with a lightsaber on different planets. One
of the questions they asked the developer was, can you choose the light or dark side? And he goes, no. And then there's a pause, and the guy's like, okay, why not? And the developer goes, because.
Yeah, I mean, it's because the story doesn't include light or dark side. You're obviously on the light side.
It's so great when they get the developers on there to try to market something, because it's like they don't know how.
Yes.
Most of them don't know.
It's always fantastic when they do that. I love when they bring in, what was it, a couple years ago, the guys talking about Diablo Immortal, which I think just came out recently. But they're like, so why isn't it Diablo 4? And they're like, well, why don't we just talk, like, you guys don't have phones?
There was also Tim Miller, who is the director of Deadpool, and the host is like, oh, we see this virtual reality thing, and she's hyping up, and he goes, why are you yelling? Why are you so excited? And she goes, because, Tim, they pay me to be excited. And I'm like, Tim, you got to know
exactly.
by now.
I mean, honestly, at that point, yeah, that's a great answer.
And people are like, I appreciate the honesty. And someone's like, that's the perfect summary of the Game Awards. They pay me to be excited.
I mean, that's basically what the Game Awards are. They get people on stage that they're paying to be excited, and some of them do it, and most of them don't.
Like, as soon as that happened, I was like, Tim, what a stupid fucking question. Like, I get that's annoying to you, but this isn't fucking Hollywood.
No, not an actress, just a presenter.
But that gives you a clue what I've been watching. Cringe compilations. That's kind of the trap I fall into usually.
I mean, you can't go wrong with cringe compilations. Just try not to emulate them.
No, no, especially not. I'm about to dive into more Minecraft Minecon ones, and those are really bad. Like I got to be in the right mindset for those. The Game Awards is
you got to get
just
in the zone.
Right. Like Game Awards is awkwardness from adults that don't know how to handle certain questions or certain situations. Minecon is like Twitch gamers that are out in public and they don't know how to behave.
Yes, it's so accurate.
Have you had any funny parenting things that have happened since in the last month and a half? Because I've got one with Leo and Ra's al Ghul, but I want to know if there was any kind of funny, like, oh, that's fucking true. Kids see things in a certain way that you kind of feel dumb sometimes when they give you an answer.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where like he's just surprising me with the things that he picks up from both of us, and then he does something like, was it a couple weeks ago we were at McDonald's and I was grabbing his Happy Meal and he's like, oh, I'm like, hey, be careful where you're walking. He goes, oh, fair enough. I'm like,
that's something
okay, yeah, all right, that's something I say. That's from me. And yeah, no, actually, what's funny to me is he's gotten really good at drawing in like the past, I don't know, 6 months. But he went from like just kind of making scribbles when he draws people to like, the little blob shapes, and like it's getting pretty good.
How old's your son again?
He's 6.
6. Okay. So yeah, just probably about a year and a half older than Leo. He's about to turn 5.
Yeah, just about. I think, yeah, that sounds about right if I'm remembering the timeline correctly. But yeah, no, his motor skills are coming in, and I mean, he's got a good hand.
Are you or your wife artists?
No. I'm definitely not. Honestly, I feel like she could be. Like if she took the time to like actually learn how to do it and like practice and whatnot. But it's not really her thing. She's a great writer, but she's not really that good of an artist. Her dad, though, draws really well.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I think it definitely comes from her side.
Yeah, that's something I noticed with my uncles, that they all have a talent on drawing and sketching. My mom was just showing me some portraits that my uncle did of her family, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that, and I remember that being, it's, as a kid, as a teen, I'm like, that's really good. As an adult, I'm like, that's really fucking good. Especially me who can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't draw people, but I can, in high school and junior high, I used to be able to look at something and replicate it with pen and paper pretty well, I would say. Like I wasn't professional or great at it, I would say, but I think if I had continued it, I probably could have had like a little DeviantArt somewhere, or like a little specific Instagram for just my drawings or sketches, and I think they would have done okay. So I can see what you're saying of like talent or drawing at least being from one side of the family, because that's what I've seen from my mom's side, and Leo's hopefully going to pick that up. My brother is into sculpting and painting and drawing, so the art side is absolutely there. I just hope that Leo picks it up, and I think he will. It seems just he and I kind of think on the same wavelength as far as like logic and art, different sides of the brain.
Right.
That's one thing that I can't do.
Yeah, no, it's funny though, because me and Liam think very similarly, but he's got like certain things from her that just like astound me every time he does them.
Are you more mathematical based?
I would say that I am. Yeah, no, she's definitely like the English person. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, no, I do more the math and science and then stuff like that.
I had this bit where I've been sitting down and watching some stuff with Leo. We watched the Snyder Cut again, and he had questions. He saw my Steppenwolf shirt and he wanted to see it. So we sat down and watched it. And now he's at the stage where he asks why about everything in a movie. If the movie is like intense or scary, if it's not for kids or whatever, he'll ask me, why is he doing that? Why are they doing that? Why? Everything was why with the Snyder Cut. 4 hours of that. And then with something like the animated series, I was like, all right, let's watch the Ra's al Ghul episode. And he did not know what I was talking about. He's like, yeah, we're going to watch some Batman. And I play it, and Ra's shows up right after Robin and Talia are supposedly kidnapped. And he goes, oh, not this guy again. And I'm like, what the fuck? What's wrong with Ra's al Ghul? I'm like, man, that's one of the coolest villains. And then I kind of understood that people his age like the flashier villains, like the Joker or Two-Face. Someone like Ra's who's into Earth manipulation and we need to bring the earth back to what it was, that's not going to be very fun for him. But someone like me, I'm like, that's fucking interesting. Why not?
Right. Yeah, no, he's definitely more like the villain that you can see like existing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, someone that you can see like that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but it kind of is if
it's
you're
just not the way I
human.
would like to go about it.
Right, exactly. So he just had that funny reaction of oh, not this guy, and I'm like, there's nothing. You saw him in Batman TMNT, like he was okay in that too. Like what's wrong with Raish? Jesus, just because he doesn't turn into a clay creature.
That's fair. That is definitely fair. Yeah, no, I mean it's the things that entertain my son just never ever make any sense to me.
Is he into YouTube?
But yeah, no,
like
I
a
remember
shit ton of YouTube.
I don't let him on YouTube.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't let him play with that. He does have like the Amazon Kids tablet that has certain YouTube videos that it pulls, but it does a pretty good job screening them. But yeah, no, he doesn't really do YouTube. We had it on there for a little while, but he was getting into some stuff that he really didn't need to be seeing at that age, and he's not quite at the age where I'm ready to let him go on to the wild yonders. Yeah, no, I mean, he watches, what's the one little kid with the family and all that?
The one who has the line of toys too?
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, and Leo watches that too. I don't know his name though.
Yeah, those videos drive me insane.
Yeah.
That's mostly the mom. But yeah, no, I mean, he watches that. He watches like PJ Masks, and it's the one with all the dogs doing every service. Paw Patrol.
Oh yeah, fucking Paw Patrol. He still likes that.
Yeah, he's still into it. Like, it's funny because you'll see him go through phases where like he binge watches like I do. So he'll go through like a stage where like he's really into one show, and then everything about his personality is like, oh, I'm like this character from this show. And I'm like, all right, what show are we watching now? Yeah, no, he does stuff like that, which is entertaining for me because I like to binge watch stuff. Not necessarily the same stuff he does, though.
Has he watched Camp Cretaceous? Is he into dinosaurs?
I don't think he has. I'd honestly have to ask him.
Because I was going to say the new season came out today.
Did it?
So that's something
I
else
know
to
he
binge
likes
right there.
dinosaurs. I don't. Well, I know he liked dinosaurs at one point at least. He goes through. He's doing that kid thing where like he's really into one thing and focuses on it, but then the next week he'll be onto something else, which makes, let me tell you, buying presents for him very complicated.
Oh, really?
Yes, 100%. Luckily enough, he still keeps like an interest in the stuff that he liked before, so I would imagine he's still kind of into dinosaurs, at least if it's not the active thing at the moment.
Have you missed the mark on a present yet where he goes, oh, thanks?
Not yet.
Okay,
Not yet. No. But like pre-buying, like the whole thing, like, oh, start shopping for Christmas in July. Like that doesn't work with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I can see that. Leo's not there yet, but I can see how that's a problem, especially with all the options kids have. It wasn't like when we were kids where it was Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. Like that's it. That's all the shit.
Right? It was that, or like some Nickelodeon shows would have toys, but not all of them. Like one or two would have some kind of toy for it. But yeah, no, it's kind of strange, honestly. Like going into a toy store with him is a nightmare.
You go to Target now for your toys, as I do, because I can't go to any. There's no toy stores near me.
Honestly, the nearest Target is like twice as far as the nearest Walmart. So
Walmart's your toy store.
I do go to Walmart. Yeah. Like, honestly, we go there for food more than anything else, but it's, try to keep him away from that section. I'm terrified because the one up by me is putting in a Dunkin' Donuts, and he loves donuts. So I have a feeling I'm going to be buying more donuts soon every time we go to Walmart.
He's going to spot it. He knows the logo now, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. He's great with logos. Fantastic with them and knows what they mean.
Happy Meals and Donuts. What else could a kid want?
I mean, it's a life, I guess.
It's a life that it's the life that my customer base that I've dealt with for the last 10 years at this point now, going from comics to trading cards now.
That's definitely fair. I mean, enough people have survived on McDonald's. I just wish I could get him to eat a burger, honestly, at this point. Like, we can get it from the same place. Let's just get something else.
Well, on my end, I've been still working with Bobby and doing, like, that's kind of been like, all right, I think I can do this for a while. Thankfully, I'm not in a position where, like at the food stand, where I'm like, okay, well, this is temporary until something else happens. Like I still have the post office that I'm supposedly still on the pre-hire list, but I'm also like, well, if they pass on me, I'm not gonna cry over like, oh shit, well let me go find, okay, where can I work now? Who else is hiring? Because I need to get out of, like, I the people I work with, like I'm like, all right, I can talk to them, I can chat with them. They're all friendly. I get to see Bobby almost every time I go, and when he's not busy, like he and I chat. Like it's kind of awesome. Like it's working out okay.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you got a pretty good situation going on there, which is good. I'm glad to hear it.
And if Scott ends up working there next, then that's another Discord person that's on. He's going to collect us all.
Job there, I guess.
Yes, eventually you will. You will be acquisitioned. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
One of my, I will tell this story. One of my coworkers who also works at UPS. UPS is his main job. And as you very well know, and anyone that's on Discord or on Twitter, anything I shill for, I own stock in. So UPS is one of those. And, I'm that definition of, what do they pay you to shill? Yes, they do. Yes, they do pay me to shill.
Yeah.
And so
dividends every quarter.
Exactly right. So with him and UPS, I kept asking, every time I'd see him, I'm like, how's UPS going over there? Oh, good. Getting a lot of volume, a lot of packages. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, that's great for business. He's like, yeah, you're right. And so every time I'd see him, I'd ask him about UPS. And it wasn't until this week that he realized why I kept asking. And he realized, he found out that I own stock in UPS. So I went from a guy, I'm assuming in his mind, of this guy's really nice, he really cares about how things are going at my other job, to, oh, he's just watching out for his shares.
Right. Yeah.
Like right before he went to work.
Hopefully it doesn't ruin your friendship, but
I doubt he's going to take it, because we got Pokemon in common. We talk a lot of Pokemon, so that's kind of the main thing. I will be like, hey, go get some rest, man. He's like, I work at UPS at 4 tomorrow, so I'm going to head out. And I'm like, okay, well, get some rest. Make sure you're at 100% over there. He's like, well, maybe 30 at most, because I'm probably going to get 4 hours of sleep. I'm like, yeah, you know what? 30's great. Don't get anything less than 30 then. Like, I just really play it up. That's been the fun part.
I mean, you do a great job with shilling for your companies. I will give you that.
Everyone's kind of in on it, but it's fun when someone's not. That's the best part right there, just to see their reactions and kind of, I guess I'm messing with them in some ways. But Jared, there's been some great gaming news this week, and I do appreciate you being on to cover Xbox, PC, and Snyder Cut stuff. So I really do appreciate it, and please let them know where they can find you, where they can find your Discord, your Twitter, or anything else that you want them to know about as far as reaching out to you.
Right now, honestly, the best place to find me is either in our Discord or on Twitter at Spoon Sandwich.
There will be links to Jared's Twitter and to our Discord in the description of today's episode. And again, thank you, Jared, for being a part of the rotation and for being a part of potentially a second year in a row with co-hosts, this rotation of co-hosts for the Podcast Awards. We were nominated last year for Games and Hobbies, so I do want to remind, this might be the last episode before the votes are in. So if you're listening to this and it's still July, please go to podcastawards.com, click on the nomination button. You just need an email to make sure that you're not a bot fucking voting in. Email to sign up, and go to Games and Hobbies and go to People's Choice. Those two categories are where we are listed currently. Vote in and click save, and hopefully we'll get nominated for the 6th year in a row for the Podcast Awards. I know there's a lot of tabs, a lot of categories. You don't have to vote in all of them if you don't want to, but if you want to help us out, please make sure to click on People's Choice and Games and Hobbies and find us under T for The Reasons I'm Broke.
They've got about another week to do that, too. So get on it if you haven't.
I want everyone to get a trophy, Jared. I want us to win. Everyone
want a
to get
trophy.
one. Yes, I want every single co-host to get one. Bobby talked about getting 2 so that he can have one up in the shop and one at home. Let's hope we get there.
Honestly, that's a great idea.
It is. It's a good talking point, too. So thank you all so much for joining us again this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Jared on episode 518, and Brocat Core. All will be well. So maybe they're onto something with Bayonetta 3. Should we have a safe for work option for this podcast? Just leave out all the furry talk. Leave out all the.
Honestly, no. I'm gonna stick with our artistic vision on that one.
Episodes would be what, 5 minutes long, maybe?
Yeah, probably just about. I don't know. Like all new rule: no trash talking other co-hosts. All right, well, I'm off.
You have to be nice to Disney and the MCU. Well, fuck, what am I going to talk about now?